because they were fixing to get the cold weather, my understanding, so just be prepared. Okay, anyway, look at the calendar, and on Tuesday, November the 26th, the town council meeting will hold its regular meeting, and then on Thursday and Friday, November the 28th and 29th, town offices will be closed for Thanksgiving. That takes care of that. Have any public comment tonight? Okay. No public comment. Okay, there are some additions to the agenda. We're adding another thing in here for Elizabeth, Peace Development Services Office. And so I will need a motion for the change to the agenda. Somebody?
I'll make we add the agenda item from Development Services.
All right.
Were we adding that to the consent agenda?
No, I'd like her to make a presentation for it. So let's do that this after the presentation.
All right. Did I get a second?
Second.
All right, got a second from it. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, show like sign. Okay, consent agenda. Anything changing on that, or is everything correct?
Mayor, I'll make a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Second.
Got a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, show like sign. So ordered. Okay, we move down here to presentations. I'll do the first there. The purpose of this presentation is to take time during the meeting to extend our appreciation to the town staff who went above and beyond during the events of Hurricane Helene. We have set aside some time this evening to honor three Pacific departments: the Police Department, Wastewater Treatment Department, and Development Services. We commend each of you for your exceptional dedication and outstanding service to the citizens of Waynesville during Hurricane Helene. Each of you demonstrated unwavering commitment, bravery, and compassion in providing aid and support to the community and during this challenging time. Your selfless actions and tireless efforts have significantly and positively impacted many individuals' lives. Extraordinary service and leadership displayed reflect great credit upon yourself and in keeping with the highest traditions of public service. On behalf of myself and the other board members tonight, we want to thank you and celebrate you tonight. And we will start off with our department heads come in and give us a little bit of history on what happened that night. We'll start off with Chief Adams.
Mr. Mayor, Town Council, thank you for taking time to honor our great employees throughout the whole town. Specifically for the Waynesville Police Department, I witnessed personally some heroic acts by our police officers and their dispatchers, and they went way above and beyond. It's very humbling to be out there with them, risking their lives and their safeties, protecting the citizens of Waynesville. And we were lucky no one was injured in our department, and no one passed away, no one died in the town of Waynesville. So that speaks well of all the employees. And specifically, one of our dispatchers worked a 12-hour shift. He brought his truck out that morning, 6 a.m. when he got off, and helped us rescue lives off at several streets, for his own safety of himself and his vehicle. So I'd like to recognize him a little extra there. Josh Nichols went above and beyond on that. Appreciate that, Josh. And all of our staff was phenomenal. And thank you again.
Okay.
Are we gonna do like the ones?
Yeah.
If you would, guys, please come up right here and we'll hand out some certificates there.
But this is not order.
That's fine. Yeah.
We're gonna butcher this just a little bit. Okay, so David Adams. Welcome.
you, guys. Appreciate you.
Eric Bachelor. Is Eric here? Billy Goodhart. Brittany Brown. Nope. Sorry, I'm just looking over this list because it's not in alphabetical order. Kennedy Cable. Nope. Ben Caldwell. Tim Carver. There's not one for you, apparently. Craig C. I cannot pronounce his last name. Simizuski. David Clancy. Matthew Coburn. Ashlyn Constance. Nope. Evan Davis. Nope. Cody Korn. Ryan Craig. Nope. Evan Davis. Nope. Eric Dickey. I know he's there. I see him somewhere. I don't think I've seen Jared Flesh. Is he on vacation? Devin Holtzclaw. I know he's here. Tyler Howe. Jana Lamp. Sawyer Leatherwood. Brian Lindsay. Nope. Sean Messer. Nope. Ian Miller. Nope. Josh Nichols. Chelsea Harton. No. Micah Phillips. Is Keith Presley here? Jason Reynolds. I know he's here. Josh Schick. Paige Shell. Hal Snowden. Jared Troll. Sheila Troll. Michael Whitley. Josh Williams. Isabel Yarrington. Next will be do you want Jeff to talk or?
If you want to speak first before we come in. Thanks again to the police officers.
Thank you guys for having us tonight. As you know, we had recognized some of Public Works before. Tonight, we're doing wastewater treatment plant. Unfortunately, everyone was affected by this storm here in Waynesville, the guys at the sewer treatment plant. We kind of had to take what came and work with it, and the guys down there did a tremendous job of, first of all, making sure they were safe, but still trying their best to treat water and do their jobs while, you know, a good portion of the plant was overtaken by the flood. So kudos to them and the job they do every day. Can't say enough about them.
Charles Dills. Eric Messer. Levi Newton. And Tim Putnam. Now we're gonna move to film. Yep, Elizabeth.
This one, would you like to come up and speak on behalf of your staff?
Yes, good evening, Mr. Mayor. Thank you, everybody. Thank you, everyone who participated in recovery, rescue, just being responsive to the storm. It was wonderful to be part of the town of Waynesville in that moment and the weeks following. I feel very proud and blessed to be part of this organization. The Development Services Department you don't often see because we're so often behind the scenes. But on Friday, David Kelly, Louis Delgado, and Jody Nichols were not behind the scenes at all. They were out in their trucks, helping the police department pull people out of Harris Street, looking at the apartments and managing safety issues around Frog Level. And after that, we got right down to it, starting with the weekend. David Kelly organized the town. We went out in teams and we documented all the storm damage for our private citizens. This helps them with their FEMA applications. This helps us with our building permit process. And we're going to be talking a little bit more about that in detail later in the meeting, so I won't go into it. But every single one of the development services staff put in extra hours, took on additional work, was out in the field talking to people, trying to connect citizens to resources. And we're still in that process of looking at permits and trying to work with people to get them the assistance they need to rebuild or restore their homes. So with that, I'll turn it back over to Brittany. Thank you very much.
Esther Coulter. Luis Delgado. Olga Grimmett. David Kelly. Okay. Roy McDonald. Alex Mumby. Jody Nickel. Yeah, you got one.
That concludes. Just give them one more hand. Okay. Number 4. Okay, we're gonna move to number 4 on our agenda, which is storm recovery report. And Town Manager Rob Hodge will give us that report.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'd like to give you an update on what your town staff and its contractors have been doing since we last met. On an administrative level, what Paige McCurry has been doing is working with the department heads to determine what are urgent needs versus non-urgent needs. We'll have a site visit tomorrow with FEMA representatives to go over this list, and with the hope that as we develop these urgent needs, that in the coming months we'll get an initial check from FEMA for items like the Depot Street Bridge, the 24-inch sewer line that we've completed over Richland Creek, debris removal, and other urgent needs. The non-urgent needs, which would be like the repairs to the parks and stuff like that, we would be looking for a reimbursement from FEMA at a later date. So we've developed a priority matrix of our urgent, non-urgent needs, and also developed pricing. That pricing comes up to a little over $2 million in damages to our to the town and in total. Southern Debris Removal, or SDR, is almost finished with its first pass of the town. I think you've noticed there's far less debris than there was just a couple of weeks ago. They will make 2 more passes through the town with the understanding that people are just getting back into some of their houses and will be tearing out their houses and putting them on the corner. We do ask that people place their items on the street corner. It's very difficult if not impossible, for the trucks to go into the side or backyard to get the debris. As of late last week, SDR had collected 3,368 cubic yards of debris. We're collecting 168 cubic yards per day. That's a considerable amount of debris when you consider a cubic yard is 27 cubic feet. We have, in Haywood wide, we have had 8,625 FEMA registrations, and they have committed $11,901,000 of their allotment to helping the folks in Haywood County. In the, this week and next, we'll be hopefully finishing up specifications for bidding out the park the park contracts for renewing the, ball fields. And, Luke will go into that in just a minute. We're finishing up the specifications for the renovation of the storm damage at the finance office and hope to have that out by early next week. That's just a brief summary of what we're doing, and I'll be happy to answer any questions.
You give like the total.
Yeah, $2,495,000, what we estimate our damages here in Waynesville. And that's to the public sector. That's not private sector damage. That's just damage to the city itself, to the city parks, buildings, bridges, sewer lines.
Does anybody have any questions for Rob?
Thank you, Rob, for putting that together.
Oh, my pleasure.
I was expecting a FEMA representative this evening, but they're very busy. I'm guessing I can give you, I'll get my update with roads. And
I'm kidding.
Okay. All right. Is there anything that's approved on that? You just did a presentation for it.
Yes, this is for the town as a whole, and then of course you'll hear a presentation. Your next item will be from Luke, and he'll kind of bore down on the recovery effort in the parks.
Okay. Okay, we'll move to parks and recreation damage assessment and future park plans due to Elaine. Luke Kinsley, Recreation Director.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just to kind of bounce off of Rob's presentation and his report to you guys. For Parks and Recreation specifically, we are continuing the debris removal with SDR. And they're continuing to get debris up as the weeks go by. And right now our strategy is to assess costs, obtain bids as far down as fencing. We're trying to just electrical and assess what can be restored and repaired, or completely what needs a complete demo and rebuild. So I'll just quickly go into this presentation and before you is to consent or direct us on what you envision and help us in the direction. What would you, some suggestions? What do you so without further ado, I'll start my presentation. So one of the heaviest hit parks and fields was Dutch Fisher Field and Hazelwood Park. The dugouts, fencing, press box, and restroom facilities sustained heavy damage. Facilities were already in need of upgrades prior to flooding, so I'm sure you all are aware there was some upgrades that were down there at the Dutch Fisher Field. So now that it's flooded, it's just catastrophically pretty much destroyed it. And we've had building inspections come down there and give some suggestions on what they would tear down or leave. And they have suggested we could probably leave the picnic shelter, maybe do some minor upgrades to it, but it didn't sustain as much damage. There's a lot of foundational damage, undercutting. We need to assess the electrical damage with the lighting, scoreboard, things like that. The fence has already been removed. The bleachers took a heavy hit. They were already sort of disrepair. So all of that's been taken out, and what's left is really the press box, the dugouts, and the concessions and bathrooms. So what we hope to do is go out to bid soon and hopefully do an RFQ for engineering and design services to kind of get us back in a rebuild way to see what FEMA will reimburse us for. Proposed plan and options, upgrade, rebuild a dugout, press box, concession, and restrooms. This can be done in more of a cinder block maybe press box or more flood mitigated type facilities that will be sort of not bulletproof, but hold up better to future flooding as it will be down there still in the floodplain. I was talking to a construction representative last week who is locally known, and you probably know him, Mr. Mackie McKay. He is suggesting on our side, in order to mitigate future flooding, it would be a good idea at both ball fields to construct a small 2-foot wall where the backstop is in order to divert water. But we don't know the cost of that. So that's where we're waiting to get responses and cost estimates back on. Replace the fencing as before. Like I said, all this depends on cost. The RFQ will likely be sent out to firms as a package deal, or it could be separate. I think me and Jesse are going to be working on that in the upcoming week, trying to develop that RFQ and get that out to engineer firms. Our hope is to have the field ready by the spring of 2025. It all depends on how we can do it pretty basic, or we can get pretty detailed in upgrading facilities and how we do it. The ball fields don't take too much to repair, but they do take some, your dirt, your fencing, press boxes are needed. But we will continue to talk with Mountaineer Little League organization to see what they will suggest. If we have to, by the spring of 25, we can support Johns and just get the field ready to go, so that way youth girls can have a place to play.
Would it be best to move the restrooms on the other side, to get them away from the?
Well, we want to try to look into that. Utilities, water and sewer hookups, what dictates that? If it can be moved.
I was just thinking about for future floods.
Yep.
And, getting some of that stuff away from the creek.
And that's something we can definitely put in the RFQ, flood mitigation measures. That's something that we definitely talk to the firm to apply, and get the RFQ and win the bid.
Did Mackie show any interest like in the ball field? I know he's kind of an expert at building ballparks and stuff. That, bidding on it.
Yeah, he's a man of few words.
Okay.
So I was trying to gauge that out of him. He just said he would send me some materials costs and I can add it up from there. Yeah. Which kind of a little bit more than that.
Yeah.
So I've got to call him back, and I haven't received anything yet.
He's an engineer also.
Yes. He was saying, don't have to do your backstop and chain link fence. You could do exactly like what Tuscola's done at their fields. Yeah. How much money do we lose, and what does our budget allow? What can we do?
Look, when was the last time that Dutch Fisher flooded?
It wasn't 2021. It would have had to have been way back in 04, 05. But in 2021, it did not. But yes, we hope that this field is becoming a top priority because of our partnership with Mountaineer Little League. But Mackie, Mr. McKay did say he could have it built done in a couple of weeks, but we have our procurement policy. He did show an interest in possibly bidding on. Okay. So moving on, next ball field. Hope you can see these pictures. Okay. Vance Street softball field and restrooms. Once again, Richland Creek wiped this field pretty good. There's severe undercutting to foundations like the press box, dugouts. The restrooms are structurally in good condition. We thought they were in very bad disrepair, but after handling development services and inspection, we don't see any structural damage.
Yeah.
And those restrooms are in a very high demand area of foot traffic. So we do hope to get some bids out, get some bids soon on repair, renovation of some of those furnishings, painting, and upgrade the electrical. Hope to get the bathroom down there up and running very soon. Those are the only outdoor public with the park system on that side, beside Rec Park. Yeah, so we hope to get that done very soon. Mr. McKay looked at this ball field specifically, to mitigate future flooding. If we get a small wall at the backstop or to divert the water, it would certainly help. A press box, a cinder block press box that can hold up to flooding a little bit. And we already have some fencing estimates on this ball field. I want to say it's around 70-some thousand.
So the press box, do they have some damage to the footings?
Yeah, severe. Yeah, it's undercut the foundation slab.
Very foundation.
Yeah, very much so. It was, we had obtained a quote not too long ago, to fix up that press box with some better siding and just give it some love. That alone was $40,000.
Yeah.
So given what's happened and the state of the press box, the siding is just chewed up. It's old.
Yeah.
We would suggest just tearing it down and going with cinder block one. Yeah. Going on to the greenway, large sections of trail damage, natural surface trail areas. We think we can repair those in-house on the natural surface areas. But what you're looking at picture-wise is the newer greenway area going up to the bridge, and then across from the bridge is where Richland Creek really hit a number on that newly paved section. That will need to be reassessed and repaired. So we're looking at the new paved park area greenway. Rob and I have already talked about getting it back out to reconstruct just the grading and base. So and then taking out the already bad sections, the damaged sections, maybe all of them may be ripped out. But then we redid to a contractor to do the base grading and the crushed stone base. What we're asking the current contractor, Dan Grady Company, who did the original pavement, they will be responsible for coming back and doing the paving only. That's what we have asked them to do. Certainly do that with a newer machine and better suit. Yeah. Any questions so far?
Any questions, council? Very good, guys.
Moving on. At Milo Park, that was a really heavy hit area due to the leak. The restrooms and playground have sustained so much heavy damage. We have looked at the already disrepaired structures, and it is probably best not rebuilding restrooms or a playground in the floodway, since it is so prone in that area to flooding. We recommend not rebuilding back there. FEMA should reimburse the town assessed value of losses funds. We have found out from that funds can be transferred to another project. If I understood that correctly, Rob, that we can obtain the value funds from those restroom facilities and possibly playground, and we'll transfer those funds to another project. So that's some good news, but that area would be so prone to flooding. We thought about moving and relocating the sand volleyball courts down to this area, and I'll explain why in a second. Because if it floods that, it's easily repaired.
That's a good idea, move the sand courts for the old restaurants where you're going to displace that. It'll give you the room to do that. Then look.
Making that area keeping the picnic shelter there because it's a good spot to enjoy. So people can go down there and then that could be still a rentable shelter for a little bit of revenue. But keeping it a greenway trail, keeping it green space, picnic area, and getting facilities out of that floodway would probably be the best way to go. Plus, the new bathrooms over at Reg Park are just right across, so there's restroom facilities over.
You're talking about over by the all abilities playground.
Yes, well, Island Park would be on the creek side on the other side of the tennis court.
Sure.
But the All Abilities Playground in Red Park houses the new bathrooms.
Yeah.
So you have restroom facilities
Yeah.
there, so
Okay.
I see no reason to build. Plus, to be honest, those Bilo restrooms we do have cameras down there, but it's a spot of loitering and just get rid of that hot spot. Help out this part a little bit. Any questions on the Bilo? All right, the last one, the dog park. So as you know, the dog park got completely, pretty much destroyed. You will see down there right now, SDR has a lot of that debris removal to get up. But our proposed plan and option would be to relocate the dog park out of the floodway, move it above the rec center adjacent to Howe Mill Road where the sand volleyball courts currently are. This would be out of the floodway, no worries of future flooding. It already provides parking, trail access, water, electricity, lighting, and easy access to restrooms, whether it's the outdoor restrooms, sidewalk connection, or the rec center is right there. And it's high up enough to do drainage, so it wouldn't be in a hard spot. Whether it's
So the one thing that people told me that they really would like is shaded area with the
yes,
dog park.
yes,
Shaded area.
Shaded area.
Yes.
yes. That is one piece of feedback that I took when we did the improvements last time. The large dog side that people wanted to remain up there in shade. So that gets into, could we plant trees? The trees take a long time to take time to grow. Now we can do some artificial shading, some shade cells, but that will add to the cost. Pretty good.
That's the one thing every single person, I hear about the dog park more than anything else, is that they like trees and shade. It's an easy place.
Yes. So this space currently up there above the rec center would have ADA parking and ADA friendly. So we could in the RA for the design proposal do an add-on for shade cells. I know shade cells are roughly around $20,000 depending on how you look at them. So shade isn't cheap.
Yeah.
But we have done a cost estimate for artificial turf versus mulch. Of course, artificial turf would have to be really flat. What I'm about to show you, I'll go ahead and go to the next slide. Is the relocation map, and thanks to she helped me on that. So we want to kind of go with some of the topography. It doesn't have to be totally flat. It doesn't have to be totally square. It can this rough estimate would be roughly an acre. We do landscaping, keep and supplement some trees in there, like for shading. If we plan on that, they have to take time to grow, so the shade will come later on. Greenway connections and sidewalks, existing parking and lighting. So that's a big thing. Lighting's already there. Water's already there. The ADA and parking. And then just another supplement map. This is hard to see, but you can see the water access is already there along with the electric and the lighting.
There's lots of water access.
Yes, yes. And this proposed area would be better maintenance wise, maintenance friendly for our staff to get in there and do add mulch, do necessary repairs. We could easily put in dog water bowls, line. So.
As a big dog owner, thank you for making the park big.
Yes, definitely don't want to go smaller.
No, yeah, because I have two 90-pound dogs. And that big dog park is on the verge of too small.
Yeah, we want to use.
It's like owning horses. Yeah. But yeah.
Exactly, and we want to use as much of this footprint as possible. Take advantage of the topography. if you were to go down the hill anymore, I feel like with that natural grassy area, that is such a nice grass hillside, and it's beautiful. So if you move the dog park down, I mean, it would just mulch. So I don't know. It's a lovely green space to have, and we were thinking about keeping it green space, but you can see where that hillside corners around, and a big good spot for mulching and dogs to do that.
Can definitely see the small dog park at the bottom and the bigger one.
Yeah, and we can,
Or bike, we've got lots of options.
we certainly want to engage our advisory commission and some community input and see which side was the large dog.
You will get lots of
or-
community input.
Yeah, lots of community.
I'd be happy to bring them over.
Do what?
I'd be happy to bring them over for a demonstration of how much room they need.
Yes. And I have the little dog, so we can do.
Yeah, exactly. Maybe not at the same time.
Oh, she'd be fine.
No, I'm worried about my guys.
Oh, my dog hurting your dogs? Yeah. Just kidding.
Either way.
One thing that would be very beneficial that I wanted to look into is when this hopefully will be done the next year or so, we don't know, but reaching out to, like, say, nonprofits like Sergeants and doing educational outreach and educating park users on ethical behaviors, education. That's one thing that my last conference that I went to a session on this is it's been very beneficial for the city to do a lot of educational outreach now on the misbehavior dog, patrons lives.
What, go ahead. What's great about that location is that in the future you could have the obstacle. They have agility courses, and they have all kinds of things that happen that can, festivals and stuff.
Yeah,
It's
it's very visible. Given the popularity of the dog park, this would be, great. We could get the dog park design, get it installed and do it basic right now, cost friendly. FEMA reimburse us, and then we look at adding those agility courses later.
So
Mission right now would be to
get a dog park.
get a dog
Get a dog
park.
park.
Yes, but also getting our adult softball and girl softball league back into the spring season. And like I said, at Dutch Fisher Field and Van Park, we need to get the field playable and where they can play ball to meet that community by next spring. That would be great. And then we work forward. Any questions?
That's good questions. Time to ask.
No
Sure.
question. Last week, the Environmental Sustainability Board was talking over things, and we're hoping to set up a meeting with some representatives of the rec board. They were looking more at Greenway and that sort of thing. I had one idea, which is, solar arrays actually provide a little bit of shade. So it is possible. I know they're looking at that back, if you recall, the back of the rec center for some possible solar facilities. And just an idea. I don't know if it'll work.
If they do that at one of the New Belgium that did that. They
Use
have
the
that.
solar arrays as shade.
Yes.
It's interesting.
I've been to a big parking lot at IKEA, the whole parking lot shaded with solar. Anyway, the other thing I was going to say is I definitely bid out the backstops for the spring diversion. I'm afraid this will happen again sooner than later. So, and maybe we can't do it right now, but maybe we could do it in the near future.
Yeah, that's what Mr. McKay had expressed. We know the flood again, so we know that a nice 2-foot wall with good footings, that backstop, divert water, big way for both fields. So I that was a good idea. Get it with Mr. McKay. Mackie is the expert.
Anyone else?
Anything?
I need a motion.
Yeah. Any direction or?
We would like your affirmation as to the relocation of the dog park and movement towards eliminating the restroom at the Philo area.
Yes.
Because those are very important for our planning and our bidding. Yeah.
I'll make a motion to consent to the rebuilding of the park facilities as presented.
Second.
A motion to second, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, show like sign. Thanks, Luke.
Thank you.
Good job.
Doing a great job, son. Appreciate it. I'll just start calling him son.
Actually, for you and me, for you and me, it'd be grandson.
Yeah, grandson. Yeah. Okay, the final update on damage assessment following Hurricane Helene. Ms. Elizabeth T.
Yes, sir, Mr. Mayor, thank you. I'm going to just give a brief introduction and then Olga Gorman with me here to talk about some of the statistical data for the residential side, and Alex Mumby here to talk about the business non-residential side. And I want to just, David Kelly isn't here anymore, but I really want to tell you again what a great job David and Olga have done, particularly in terms of organizing the damage assessments, collecting the data, and then sharing that data with North Carolina Emergency Management, building spreadsheets, and along with Esther Coulter, the amount of data that we've collected has astounded even the North Carolina Emergency Management FEMA people who've come to visit, and they're all like, wow, y'all are doing a great job and you're ahead of the game. So kudos really to the development services staff and the leadership of Olga and David. And then Alex's work with Tom on businesses was also great. We'll talk some more about that. But this presentation will summarize for you a damage assessment on private property. And this was all collected by the Development Services Department in the immediate 2 weeks after the storm. These assessments are required as part of being a national flood insurance program community. And they're used not just for our own data. Let's see. Where's my? There we go. Thanks. There. Oh, okay. That's, yeah, thank you. They're used not just to collect data, but it also gets us on the street, in the ground, and trying to connect people to resources. Again, as storm recovery has kind of changed from immediate needs to long-range planning, we want to let people know that the FEMA Disaster Recovery Center, or DRC, is set up and will stay at the Regional High-Tech Center. And then their hours are 8 to 7 p.m. And if anyone has any questions for FEMA, if you're having confusion about your how to apply, any questions about what you may be eligible for, I would highly recommend you just go and talk to someone in person. What we've heard from people who've been trying to interact with FEMA is the phone contact isn't as easy as just face-to-face. We also do have for you there the FEMA assistance contacts, and those sources are available online. Local agencies and nonprofits are still doing a tremendous job trying to help our local citizens. Right now, we know that several people are going to need assistance with not just fixing their house, but also finding new furniture. And also looking at different needs they may have. Some people have lost jobs. Some people have lost personal effects, and we have a lot of great churches and nonprofits that are there to help. One thing I will mention about this is that there are some organizations out there that are available to help people with reconstruction and repair, to help you fix your home. Particularly Mountain Projects, Baptist on Mission, Orchard Church, and there's a group called Crisis Cleanup that can come and help some of the additional cleanup stuff. And we highly encourage people to reach out to those agencies. And with that, I wanted to share with you something that we're doing now. As we're wrapping up damage assessment, we've been able to identify the most severely damaged structures. And if somebody's structure is damaged beyond 50% of its value, that's what we call substantial damage. And that means essentially that they have to be brought into full compliance. Now, David and Olga decided that rather than send something out in the mail, they went to each property in person and delivered, here's a sample of what we were working with, delivered a substantial damage letter. And this is again in keeping with FEMA requirements. And you'll see on the back page, I'll give you this one. It talks about what you need a permit for and what you don't. It also provides the listing of resources that I've shared here. And then it also included this FEMA brochure that we provided. We actually got this from Tom Tillis's office and National Office. So our goal is to get as much information out to our citizens and really to be helpful in this process and sensitive in this process. We know that people have lost a lot, and we are working to assist them. Subsequently, next month, we will be bringing to you a formal change in ordinance to accommodate temporary housing and the use of emergency housing where people could maybe place a FEMA trailer or an RV or a camper trailer on their own property while their home is being. We've taken from you, we have, at least in a temporary basis, your permission to do that, but we're going to bring forward a formal text amendment to you soon. So, again, what are damage assessments? This is a little bit of a review. It's a requirement for us to stay eligible in the National Flood Insurance Program. This data collected identifies damaged structures. It helps us identify those substantially damaged structures that I mentioned before. And the key thing about substantially damaged, what we need to be sensitive to, is if you have a property that's in the floodway and it's gotten damaged to the extent that it's over 50% of the value, then full compliance is removal out of the floodway. If the property would allow to build out of the floodway, elevate to BFE, we would let them do that. But there are a couple of cases where people may not be able to build back where they originally had their home. There's just a handful of those. And again, we're trying to be really sensitive. And they're working with their FEMA representative to see what their process is to do a potential buyout. So the other part about flood damage is it does create a record of flood damage. And this helps us identify areas in our local floodplain ordinance and our floodplain maps that are consistent with the flood that we saw, areas of our ordinance that we may need to strengthen. And at the end, we've got some ideas that we want to bring back to you in the future. And then we also, with the damage assessment, documents unsafe structures, expedites permitting, and it can also be used by the property owner for insurance claim or to meet FEMA representatives. And several people have come in to get copies of their damage assessments. So those are the forms. And then I'm going to turn this over to Olga. And then she's going to talk about residential. Alex will talk about business permitting. But I did want to just point out that we looked at 446 structures in town. Those were structures that had clear or visible damage. So we went ahead and did damage assessments, and not all of them were actually in the flood. So that was kind of interesting. All right, Olga.
Good evening, Olga Grumman, Assistant Development Services Director. Just to backtrack on the forms a little bit, these forms were given to us by the NC Department of Public Safety, Emergency Management. These forms we found to be very useful. There is also a second option to use FEMA tool, but it's all electronic. It requires 3-4 hours of training and installation, which the time we didn't have. So these forms came really handy. In fact, today, 10 o'clock in the morning, we did have a visit from our emergency management. Our NFIP coordinator for the state, Steve Garrett, and there was FEMA Region 4 representative Valerie with him, and they just checked with what we're doing, asked us any questions planning-wise, damage assessment-wise, and they did confirm that we are in a good shape for assessments and for providing community resources and for floodplain compliance as well. So a total of 446 structures were inspected, as Elizabeth mentioned, for damages. 302 of them were residential and 144 were non-residential. 342 structures had at least some damage, and the degree of damage varied from 0.2% to like almost total. And 22 structures were substantially damaged and will need to comply with floodplain requirements during reconstruction, such as elevation. Commercial structures get an option of floodproofing as well. Something to take from this, in the letters, in the packet that we sent, we did encourage people to come and schedule an appointment with us, and we did state that the structure may be substantially damaged because people do have a right to provide their own most recent appraisal estimates, tax value, and therefore the burden on them may be less. In fact, we did have one structure coming back to us with appraised value, which was actually below substantial damage. So we took that. They can actually reconstruct at a cheaper cost. And now 62 structures, 18% of all assessed structures sustained damage ranging from 30 to 50%, which is pretty substantial as well. So the way we did the assessments, we prioritized areas known that are flood prone, of course, the floodplain areas as well, and it was based on some observations that our building inspections done in the early hours of the storm. And the most affected areas were Depot Street, Commerce Street, Harris Street, Killian Street, Smathers Street, and Camp Branch Road, which is not in any flood zone. In fact, the structure you see on the most left picture with the washed off foundation is on the Camp Branch Road. And above there is a mudslide with our pump house, which is also on the Camp Branch Road. But the structures of Camp Branch Road, they were substantially severely undermined. They were damaged by the creek, and they were not in any flood zone at all. The properties, we have a map that we've made of the properties that sustained substantial damage. These are properties with the structures sustained damage. So the dashed yellow lines are the properties. So the red area is the floodway, which is immediate danger. The area is non-encroached. It shouldn't be encroached. It should be reserved to store floodwaters. The blue area is a 100-year floodplain. That's our regulatory floodplain right now. The dashed yellow parcels that selected that are parcels where the structures were damaged. Again, various degree of damage. What we found interesting is that the floodplain map with the delineation of a floodplain actually works. However, what we see is there are quite a bit of properties that are on the fringes of this flood area. Because the floodplain traverses through the most urban, the most densely populated areas of our town, which is Frog Level and Hazelwood. These are the most developed areas with large amount of impervious surface. And we can see that the floodwaters damage structures on the fringe of this floodplain area. What it means that the flood possibly may be expanding to the 500-year floodplain, which is at this point non-regulatory by our standards. That was interesting to see that on the fringes we saw quite a bit of damage. Again, out of 342 properties within damaged structures, 325 of them, 95% were in the 100-year floodplain, which is 1% of annual chance of flooding. That's how it translates. And 17% were outside of the regulatory floodplain. Two highest watermarks were 6 feet of Reeby Street and 5.5 feet of Harris Street. What we've noticed that structures that were built to current floodplain regulations, which is base flood elevation plus 1 foot above for the first habitable floor, sustained considerably less damage. And the most damage occurred for the structures that are pre-firm, which were built prior to the adoption of our floodplain maps, which is 1980. And firm maps correctly predicted the flood-prone areas and structures, and there were some structures that were damaged within 500-year floodplain as well on fringes, transitioning outside of the floodplain we have now. Now, for substantially damaged structures specifically, which is 50% or more of the market value of the structure, 18 were in a 100-year floodplain, and 10 of those properties were at least partially in the direct floodway. And 4 properties were outside of any regulatory flood zone. 3 had flood damage, and 1 was damaged by a landslide. Substantially, structures must be brought in compliance by elevating them or by floodproofing them. Damaged structures in Frog Level and Harris Street neighborhoods were pre-firm or pre-existing nonconformities prior to 1983. There was more significant damage. And just a little bit more breakdown of potentially damaged structures. 2 had 5 feet watermarks, 3 had 4.5 watermarks, 10 had 3 feet watermarks, 7 had watermarks below 3. What was interesting to see is when you look at where the base flood elevation and where the watermarks were. I've done several, star structures, just analysis from all the damaged, potentially damaged structures, all the way to the structures that were damaged 40% or more. In many instances, it showed that actual flood, as high as it may seem, was below the established base flood elevations. So what it tells us that it could have been worse. The flood levels, no matter how high those were, they actually did not reach many of the BFEs as established currently by the state maps. And now the location of the substantially damaged structures, these are actually the structures of the houses, purple houses, were of Sulphur Springs Road, Frog Level, Harris Street neighborhood, Hyde Street with Amanda Lane mobile home park there, and the outliers of Camp Branch and the Plains. As you see, blue again, red is the floodway, blue is the 100-year floodplain, and if they're outside, then they're no flood zone or partially no flood zone, but they still that's substantially damaged. And with this, I will pass the torch to Alex Mumby.
Can I ask one question?
Yes, sir.
You talked about substantially damaged structures must be brought into compliance with elevations or flood proofing. What are some examples of what flood proofing would be?
So residential structures only get the option of elevation. So on the current standards, they have the top of the first habitable floor has to be elevated to 1 foot above the base elevation. You can get it. Commercial structures could have flood proofing, which is engineered flood proofing of specialized materials or repellent or resistant. So an example could be when we went to the Snyder Street Road automotive there. Girls don't want to a lot of water because we did. House next to them had about that much. And then it's telling, they were like, this is usual, next day, like, what are y'all doing? They're like, we have nothing, they have metal door. It wasn't engineered clock roofing, but, you know, because some materials can tell order more than others. When they get in, they will be more damage. Plug vents, isolation.
Okay, thank you.
And there's a block roofing form by FEMA that is different homologation certificates, it has to be like engineer. Anybody have any questions for Alex?
Alright, thank you, council. So for the first 2.5 weeks after the storm, Tom McGuire and I, unfortunately, Tom couldn't be here. But Tom McGuire and I surveyed many of the commercial, parcels within Waynesville. And a lot of it, thanks to Tom's knowledge of building code, and we were really effectively able to communicate to a lot of these business owners what the next steps for them were. And so while we looked at a lot of commercial parcels, tonight I'm just going to focus on 3 of Waynesville's commercial districts, which are downtown Hazelwood, Frog Level, and Waynesville Plaza. Frog Level was the first district that we looked at, and then we immediately moved on to Waynesville Plaza because these 2 we knew were heavily hit compared to other commercial areas, and then we moved on to downtown Hazelwood after that. So this is a map of Frog Level, and it's color-coded to signify which areas were substantially damaged, what I considered moderately damaged, or had low to no damage. The moderately damaged was what we considered 10% of the valuation of the property. That's not a policy number, that's just a number I use to differentiate these properties. But the red are substantially damaged, so these were properties that had what we considered greater than 50% of their valuation in damage. Now, a lot of the damage was centered around Depot Street, specifically the Stovall building and the Soul Sisters building right next to that, along with the building on the corner of Commerce and Depot. Some of these buildings were already in disrepair before the storm, but were particularly hard hit and suffered far more damage after the storm. Specifically, those buildings on Commerce who had wooden floors and were built at grade suffered severe damage to their foundations. Primarily, if you walk on them, boards falling in or warped severely, along with broken windows, damage to the walls, and things like that. So the other thing that I want to draw your attention to is Commerce Street, where Panacea Coffee House and Frog Level Brewing are. Both of those buildings are elevated and built slab on grade. So they got very minimal water into them and also had very minimal damage to their foundations because our theory is that because those buildings were built so close to the creek and were from so long ago, even though most people we talk to say we haven't seen a lot of this type of flooding ever in Waynesville, we have a feeling that the people who built those buildings had seen some level of flooding like that. And so just to get into some details about it, the highest watermark that we measured in Frog Level was 4 feet. You can see Tom there measuring the watermark. Additionally, the force of the water blew a lot of the doors off of their hinges. So that's what that bottom picture is showing of the door inside of Soul Sisters, where they kept the water back until they were literally forced off of their hinges and the water just rushed into the building, even the back areas as well. Like I said, the wooden flooring was warping and buckling, and you can see that top left photo. It's a little difficult to see, but where mortar was literally stripped from the exterior brick of those buildings. And finally, but parts of Richland Creek's banks were eroded. That's a photo. That's Charlie's Corner right across the creek. And you can just see the amount of the bank that was washed away. Now, talking about the recovery for Frog Level, it is going to be very difficult. Panacea and Frog Level are both open. They were both open very soon after the storm, mostly because they suffered very little damage. Most of the damage they did suffer, we noted, was actually from the roof and water coming in rather than foundational damage or structural damage. And a lot of the local business owners have banded together to support some of the businesses that were pushed out of frog level. Specifically Cultivate and the Funky Fern Emporium and Soul Sisters have found homes in Axonal and the 828 Market. So it's really good to see the local business community coming together, but for the actual future of those buildings, it's very unsure. I know that the owners of those buildings have hired an engineer to determine what the actual cost of repairs on those buildings were and whether it would be feasible. We don't have an indication from them what the repair timeline for that looks like. We're currently looking into grant opportunities to help support the revitalization of that area, but like Olga said, because of what we perceive to be their substantially damaged nature, they would need to be brought into full compliance. Now, thankfully, these are commercial structures, so they could have proofing measures. They don't have to be elevated. But that would also require work to maintain the historic character of frog level, in addition to those floodproofing measures. So we don't know exactly what that looks like yet, but we're sure that will evolve. Next, I want to move on to Waynesville Plaza. Now, this is actually a map of the water level rather than the damage associated with those buildings. The dark blue is greater than 1 foot of water inside of the buildings. That medium color blue is less than 1 foot, but still some amount of water in the buildings. And that light blue, a little misleading, means there's no water in the building. Waynesville Plaza got off a lot better than frog level did, and Hazelwood in the future, even less damage. But there were some substantially damaged structures in Waynesville Plaza, namely the Kobe Express that was cantilevered over Richland Creek, and Lily's Nails, which is very close by Kobe. They both got hit really hard. The Kobe Express has moved, and I understand that they're in the process of working to demolish that building. And Lily's Nails, I don't know what the exact status for her building is, but on top of the structural damage that her building had, she also lost a large amount of equipment inside of her building. So that's an additional cost on her. We don't have that exact information about inventory loss or equipment loss, but I know that was one of the major issues with her reopening. Again, to get into more detail, the highest watermark that we measured inside of Waynesville Plaza was 2 feet. But a lot of the buildings there have reopened. Some of them took a little longer. Go Grocery, Fat Buddies had some damage on the inside. But a lot of those buildings as well had very little damage, especially as we got farther to that eastern portion of the site where there was very little water. We'd go in, we'd say, hey, did you guys have any damage? And it'd say, nope, no water, or maybe half an inch of water in our building. We'd say, great. And we'd move on. But all of those, they were open the next week. Next day they were reopened. Waynesville Plaza definitely got off much better. And the other thing that I want to note is that Waynesville Plaza, the flooding there mapped very closely to the 2012 floodplain that we use. There was a lot of discussion about whether the Bilo apartments on the other side of the creek caused additional flooding to that area. And from this mapping and just from personal accounts of before those apartments were built, it doesn't seem that they caused any additional flooding to that area. Finally, I'll talk about downtown Hazelwood. Now, I know that this is the same color as the previous map, but it's important to understand that this is much less water inside of each of these properties.
It's 2 inches, like blue is.
Yeah. So for that dark blue, that simply signifies that there was more than 2 inches of water inside of those properties, compared to Waynesville Plaza, where he said the highest watermark was 2 feet. And similarly, that medium blue is less than 2 inches, and that light blue is no water at all. And so the greatest damage. Yeah. So downtown Hazelwood. Actually, I'm going to go back to that very first slide. That picture on the left is downtown Hazelwood. That's all the water that was there during the night of the hurricane. But very little of that water actually made its way into a lot of the businesses. And even then, it was very little water that made it into the businesses. So there's very little damage to those businesses. Now, inventory was the major casualty of it. Anything that was on the floor that got wet had to be thrown out generally. But again, we don't have that number exactly, but that was just what was told to us by the business owners. And some of the buildings, their major water intrusion was through the roof. I mean, even that water that you can see there that flooded into those businesses didn't actually it was through the roof that a lot of their inventory was destroyed, not even through their front doors. And that north side was hit a lot harder. Most likely thanks to the parking lot being able to absorb a lot of the water, whereas on the north side, the water just went into the businesses. But even then, again, very little water inside. The worst damage was to Blue Ridge Books, which is on the corner of Hazelwood right there, that dark blue trapezoid building. If you go inside, some of their wooden flooring is warping, but again, that was about the extent of the damage that we saw structural damage wise. And again, continuing that theme of a lot of these buildings that had wooden flooring or wooden foundations faced a lot more foundational issues from the flood than the buildings that were built slab on grade. The stretch of buildings owned by the Bergens that has Smoky Mountain Coffee Roastery and Amici's and the other businesses, those are all slab on grade. So even when they got mud inside, they had no foundational damage to the buildings. And so finally, just to wrap up here, a summary of all three of these. Frog Level experienced the most commercial damage and is the one that is going to require the most work and have the most difficult time recovering. We need to ensure that the buildings are safe to enter. A lot of these buildings, like I said, were already in disrepair before the flood. And so after the flood, they're even worse. And so a lot of the tenants may not return to the area. Like I said, they're currently working with local business owners on Main Street and higher up on Commerce Street to have kind of pop-up businesses inside of there. And they don't want to talking to them, they don't want to shoulder the cost of the building repair. They do that. That's the responsibility of the building owner. And so until those buildings get fixed, we don't really know what the future of those tenants are. Additionally, Frog Level Bridge is damaged and we don't have a specific timetable on the repair for that. And that's going to affect business into the area, people coming down Dulwood City Road and coming into Frog Level. Waynesville Plaza is returning. As far as I know, all of those businesses are reopened and have finished repair. The businesses on the west side, like I said, were pretty much unaffected. And we got a lot of "why are you here?" We didn't have any water inside of our buildings. And finally, like the Kobe restaurant is relocating and they're looking to demolish that building. And I'm not sure about the future of Lily's Nails as well. And finally, for Hazelwood, there's very little damage to the structures. All of those businesses were pretty much reopened the next day. And yeah, that continued theme of slab on grade and even slight elevation really having a large impact on water intrusion into businesses.
And I know y'all have a long night ahead of you, so these are just some summary points of what we're looking at in terms of what's next. So as I mentioned, we want to continue to work with property owners and structures to help them comply with regulations. We also want to process these repair permits as quickly as possible. At your direction, we're doing that at no charge for storm damage. We will be bringing to you some recommendations for changing or amending our floodplain regulations locally based on what we've learned with the storm. And we'll get more into that certainly after we get the planning board to look at what we're suggesting. But just at a high level, the state is recommending across the state of North Carolina a 4-foot freeboard. So that would be BFE plus 4 feet. We feel like our ordinance is working, but we do think it would be beneficial to go from BFE 1 foot to BFE 2 feet. So BFE plus 2 feet of freeboard. And then we're also looking at those free areas that Olga showed in her map, most of which are in the 500-year floodplain, and including the 500-year floodplain in requirements for elevations in new construction. We're also looking at adopting the ordinance, as I mentioned before, to just officially in our land development standards, allow people with damaged homes to temporarily use FEMA trailers, campers, travel trailers, and RVs while their homes are being repaired. And we want to continue to pursue opportunities to improve historic buildings as part of repair if available. A lot of that has to be driven by the property owner. It's not something that necessarily that the town can initiate, but where those properties in water level that were so damaged, where the property owners may be interested, where their when their engineering studies come back and they have cost estimates in the sense of what they want to do, we want to meet them and be ready to assist. So I'm happy to answer any questions, and Olga and Alex can answer any questions.
Question, what, like going back to frog level, some of those buildings that were heavily damaged there, isn't it like if it's 50% damage, does the property owner, what does he do with the building that's damaged?
Right. So, for example, Mr. Stovall has an engineer looking at what it would cost to repair the building and to floodproof the building. And so when he gets those cost estimates back,
yes,
we hope to regroup with him and see, he's going to have to decide, his family's going to have to decide what they want to do with that building. Do they want to keep it and repair it? We hope they do, but they may choose to sell it. If they do, no matter who buys that building, they're going to have to have full compliance with the ordinance.
Yeah.
So those rules run with the property, not the property.
Run with the property.
Yeah. So we'll learn more.
If they choose not to repair it, would we require it to be torn down or?
Well, there's a methodical process for looking at it. I've heard people use the term, the town is condemning my property. No one's condemned any property yet. What we've said is you have substantial damage, you need to look at what it would cost to fix it, and then you make the decision what you want to do. We can't let the building be repaired to a level that's below compliance and to be occupied. So for right now, we're looking at those buildings as unsafe structures. We're hoping they're going to come back for a plan for the plan. Now, if they don't, they decide we can't fix it, it's beyond us, then we're going to ask them to consider a few things because it's in the historic district. We do have this thing called demolition by neglect, which is if someone allows a building to just degrade, this is somewhat of our experience. We kept asking them what their plan is. They would submit a building permit. It would take a long time, and that project would drag on. What we don't want to have happen in these historic structures is demolition by neglect, where someone doesn't do enough because, particularly with these older buildings, they're going to start falling down. It's not the mortar, the brick is washed away. The property on the corner that used to be owned by Mr. Wadham, that was already started to be damaged. We're working with the new owners. We asked them to come back with us with a study already. So now they're going to have to also incorporate damage from flood. So if we're getting to that place where the property owner is not able, then we will take that formal procedure to them instruction. But that to us is a last resort. We don't want to we'd rather give the property owner the opportunity.
Sure.
You want to add something?
Yes, ma'am. And if I may just chime in, and, all the floodplain regulations is not just because we're choosing to be part of people. We are a participating community, and because we participate in the minimum requirements, that's why the residents are eligible to get federally administered flood insurance. Should the town lapse in regulations, the whole community may be put on notice and stripped, or the rates may go up. So that's important to keep in mind. That's not only for public safety and proper reconstruction, but also for the benefit of the overall community.
Do y'all have, I have talked to several folks that have, made claims, for insurance claims and have been denied. Do y'all have any, information or, statistics about, the success or failure rates
So,
of these
yeah.
individuals?
So, we know that it's just over 190 floodplain policies specifically in town. And some deductibles do run very high. We've heard $10,000 for business, we've heard $25,000. And the payments per year for business could be $7,000, $8,000. That's what we heard from people right away. Now, the regular insurance, we don't know to what extent, probably not gonna cover flood damage specifically because it's a different type of insurance. But what we've heard from the property owners, a couple of them is, and yes, they can register with FEMA, and FEMA will step in and do some help and give some help. But for them to register with FEMA, they first have to get, like Martha was saying, denial of a letter from regular insurance saying that you're not gonna get covered. That's when they register, and that's when FEMA steps in. FEMA did confirm that process. Just technicality, it does make it longer. Yeah, and that's where this organization that we provided with the packet, they come really handy because, for example, one single old lady was saying, I just need somebody to walk through my house and tell me what needs to be done. And a lot of organizations reach out to us, and one of them that's in the packet is a newer one, it's Samaritans First. They're actually helping people with actual reconstruction of the property. So, and they just come out of nowhere somehow. Yeah, and it's great. Yeah.
And they are helping that.
Yeah.
They're available.
Yeah.
John, there's a big difference between the residential and commercial properties. Commercial properties don't get as much relief as those individuals that are residential properties. So most of the small businesses and small business owners and things are going through the SBA, and they're offering loans right now at 1%.
FEMA does not replace it.
Yes.
No.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, the SBA loans are 1%, and you have a 12-month forbearance on any payments that are required. But the fund is depleted, and it requires Congress to refill it before they can issue loans.
There is
And
a,
Congress is out of session until the new Congress is started.
and then we did learn recently that the Haywood County Advancement Foundation is offering mini grants to businesses, not to property owners, but businesses, up to $25,000 for flood assistance. So locally, our Haywood County.
And that's been extended because one of those grants was ended yesterday, but they've extended some of the local grant programs.
And I think that's wise because people are still trying to figure out what they need and what they are going to do. Because some of these engineering studies it's not something that gets down. Some of the structural not visible to just a lay person's eye, but walls slowly leaning in, the mortar on some of these old buildings, what's structural and what's not. And so they really require engineers to get in there. Okay. So what's going on? But anyway, thank you so much for your support of this project. We're going to keep working with you. And again, thank you to Alex and Olga for the work on this.
Yeah.
We certainly appreciate everything you guys have done. I know everybody's is tired at this point, but your work is incredible. I will just want this to go on the record that the group that we took over the Hazelwood restrooms, being about 4 stories high, Our restrooms do not flood, so.
That's
Yeah,
right.
no one's thinking
Yep,
about
the
that.
restrooms are fine in Masonville.
Thank you.
Okay, we're moving to, number 7, the public presentation on Town of Waynesville Stormwater Program, thermal stress and household runoff and repaired by the NPDES permit, which stands for.
National Pollutant Discharge Elimination System.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Will you take that up there, Ms.
Yes.
Hogan?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. We're still on the subject of water, but now we're gonna be talking about stormwater, which is rainwater or melted snow that goes down the streets and the parking lots and carrying pollutants with that. But before we proceed with the overview of the water waste presentation, I would like to share some exciting news. We have a full-time stormwater management coordinator. Her name is Tyler Anderson, and if you don't mind, I would like her to give you words about herself.
Hello, my name's Tyler Anderson. I'm the new Stormwater Management Coordinator. I am a recent graduate at Western Carolina, and I'm originally from Charlotte, but I love this so much here, I couldn't leave. And I'm so excited to be selected for this position, and I'm truly honored working with the Development Service team and with Favorite Waterways.
Yes, sir.
I'm very excited to be here.
You have a great
Glad
team to
to
work
have
with.
I
for
think
sure.
so too. I mean, they all got awards tonight. Isn't that amazing? It bodes very well.
Yes.
Well, thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
I will give you just very brief overview. You've heard me every year about that, but for the larger audience, I have just a handful of slides. So we do have a stormwater, or NPDES permit, townwide. You know, some entities may have different permits, like we have a townwide permit, sewer plant have their NPDES permit, and then, water plant have their own permit, but our permit covers the whole town. And this permit is valid for 5 years. It was issued to us on August 19, 2021. We are in fiscal year 4 of the permit. It means that next year we have to submit the paperwork at least 180 days to renew all the plans and everything else we have and the permit itself. The permit itself is a document, and then we have a plan which contains 57 goals with multiple sub-goals, each and they're specific for each year of the permit. And then every year we submit annual report to NCDAQ, and they check and give us feedback. And the goal of this permit is to allow the town to discharge stormwater from the municipal separate stormwater sewer system. Just a reminder, storm system is separate from the sewer system. In the state of North Carolina, they shall not intercept. The goal of the permit to protect water quality through the action items and to reduce the discharge of pollutants. And what we're doing here today is to accomplish one more goal, to educate and engage public and give them the opportunity to ask questions and understand what stormwater regulations are about. So again, the program is implemented via the goals of our management plan. It's available online and approved by NCDAQ. The program has 6 goals. I'll briefly go over each goal, what it entails. Number 1 and 2, they're very entwined: public education and outreach, public participation, and involvement. So the action items include public presentations, educational postcards, library exhibits, storm drain sampling, adopted stream program, stream cleanups, press releases, social media articles, and stormwater webpage. Almost all of them except stormwater page are done by Haywood Waterways. They really know the community and they engage kids and volunteers in a great way. Third objective is illicit discharge detection and elimination, IDDE. This includes our alcohol inspections. We are close to 500 alcohols. Our illicit discharge plan, which has to be updated annually, approved by the state. Annual evaluation of the plan, database tracking system, method of all the alcohols, and staff training, which we do annually. And the next one is going to be April 24th for us. Fourth objective includes construction site runoffs. The joint effort, our building inspectors check making sure that all the building materials are cleaned up, erosion and sedimentation control, and again, tracking and reporting. Tracking, reporting, mapping are major parts of the The fifth objective is post-construction runoff control program. I think it's very meaningful and it's most fun for me. It includes tracking and reporting the low density, high density project, annual stormwater, SCM inspections. We just sent letters recently and we got actual approval from our state coordinator to give people extensions, because several SCMs have been damaged, including Shining Rock. I know Best Buy just reconstructed, there was some damage there, and several properties already reached out to get an extension. O&M reviews, so, once the big project is complete, the most recent one was our apartments. They report the operations and maintenance and stormwater measures to make sure they have escrow account for this maintenance with their deed, and the example is actually right here. That's how it looks like. We check that they do have it and pull it to the deed. So every owner is aware that stormwater management will be a part of this site forever. Protected covenants, deed restrictions. We have inventory of the projects. We have about 27 properties with SCM, including the municipal. There's a pond at substation of Calhoun Road. There are dry ponds at the fire station, and there is a fire station of Waynesville. But as for the SCM, so these are about 27 properties. But SCM, they're with a new project coming in, probably going to 45. Part of this program is pet waste management, hotspot sampling, the some that Haywood Waterways does. And last year we mentioned that they help our sewer department to repair a lot of sewer lines for this program. Smoke testing, identify the form of sewer maintenance repairs as well. So we work closely with our public works. And the last goal is pollution prevention and good housekeeping. We make sure, public works have spill kits. So that's something that we've been looking at. It's something the state looks when it comes to audit us. If you see those stocks in the public works areas, there's a stock form thing there. Underpins and containment pans for all the chemicals and labels. We actually do for audit next year. So they come into audit on the measure. We really ask the waterways do inspections for us. And as part of it, we also do staff training, annual staff training. And we have teachers from the university. But for us, they sponsor, they come, they do that for us. The block administration and login, ordinance updates, reporting, so this is a huge program, and we are happy that Tyler is taking over to help us to make it even better. Lastly, we have stormwater maps available on the website, available via interactive GIS tools where you can see all our aspects of stormwater management. We partner with, again, Public Services Department. We take their data from the catch basin, storm drains, street traps. We do have municipal outfalls, all SDMs, all inspections, everything is all about giant database that's going on. And we do have our stormwater web page, which is really populated. And several school groups were founded and they reached out and information school based on stormwater publication and research hotline. With that, I will be talking to with Haywood Waterways. Every year we have a topic we have to discuss. This year's topic is thermal stress and household runoff.
Thanks, Olga, and thank you, and good evening. I'm Mackenzie Teenan, and I'm the project manager of Haywood Waterways. I'm sure you know we are the only organization in Haywood County that focuses on the water quality of the Pigeon River watershed, which is uniquely only within Haywood County borders. And I'm here to talk about thermal stress and household runoff. So what is thermal stress and household runoff? The second one might be a little bit more obvious, but thermal stress, also called thermal pollution, because it is considered a pollutant that will significantly change the temperature in nearby waterways. And specifically what we're talking about here is runoff originating from impervious surfaces such as parking lots and roadways, and that will increase the temperature of nearby waterways,
your storm drains and just and being close by. And when you go into rooftops and driveways, that's when the household runoff comes into play. So with this concept, we typically hear this more with urban and city areas, but I'll talk about here in a couple slides how just with the little bit of urbanization that we have in Waynesville, it's pretty obvious that it's a issue here too. It's just not as discussed. So without proper stormwater best management practices, this runoff will go untreated. And according to the EPA, temperature has been cited as a pollutant of concern and plays a fundamental role in shaping infrastructure and function of aquatic systems. I'll talk a little bit more about that here in a second. And fun fact, water transfers heat more effectively than almost all common liquids. So what is significant? First and foremost, what we like to talk about is that it's detrimental to fish and other aquatic organisms. It can lead to disease, reduced reproductive success, migrating pattern disruption, and death, unfortunately. And as we all know, when one organism is effective, everything else is, right? So super simple example, macroinvertebrates, aka water bugs, they die from increase of just a minimum of 5 °F increase in the water temperature. Those bugs die, the trout looks for bugs, there's no bugs to eat, trout dies. So that's one example. And the picture on the right there are some macroinvertebrates that we have caught before, and they're called stoneflies, and they are some of my personal favorites. As we also should know, is that our waters around here are trout waters, and they are cool water species, meaning they prefer stream temperatures below 70 degrees in Fahrenheit. So we have 3 different streams there, Richland, Raccoon, and Fines Creek, broken down into lower and upper. Richland and Raccoon are within the town limits. Richland, of course, is the main stream throughout. Raccoon meets Richland along the Greenway near Sarges. And you can see the range in temperature of what it can go up to. And the days over 70 degrees in Fahrenheit is significantly more than those in Fines Creek that are a little bit more in the rural part of the county. Even though those streams can also get to higher temperatures as well, not ideal for trout. And this makes sense since surface temperatures can easily reach between 120 and 150 degrees Fahrenheit on a typical summer afternoon. So additionally, water temperature affects the actual chemical properties of the stream. First is they're able to dissolve minerals from nearby rocks, and that leads to higher conductivity values. It'll decrease the amount of dissolved oxygen, not letting organisms be able to breathe very well. Simple example that we like to use with the kids, a cold soda is much more bubblier than a warm soda. Keep it simple. Increase in algal blooms, particularly in the summer season. Algae grow much more quickly in warmer temperatures. So what can be done to reduce and treat thermal stress and household runoff? This is a combination of what can be done on commercial properties and residential properties, or just larger public institutions. The first one that's pretty popular for larger properties is bioretention and bioswales. They're pretty similar in the fact that they slow down the water, they can filter, but bioretention is a little bit more engineered. You got gravel, soil, mulch, native vegetation, and it does a little bit more with actually treating the water before it lets it disperses underground after a 48-hour period. Bioswales, they do a little bit less of that and a little bit more of just slowing down and redirecting the water to a nearby stream. So the top left corner is by the Haywood Vocational Opportunities Building, and I would consider that more of a swale. Browning Branch is right there to the left of that area. And the bottom left is actually an old Haywood Waterways project at Bethel Elementary School, another bioretention area. Some more residential applications is Rain Barrel. Everybody knows what that is. Rain Gardens is a simpler version of a bioretention area that you can do at your home. And then we, of course, have healthy riparian buffers. Examples of that on the right-hand side. Shell and Branch are both of those. Haywood Waterways has another project that's the top right corner leading up to the skate park. And then the bottom right is some students helping us put some vegetation in to help kind of slow down some runoff for a homeowner that would help with the road above it. You can also plant trees along your driveway, cool down those areas, and position downspouts more efficiently into your vegetation, your garden, etc. Which is also where the rain barrels come into play. And as a side note, we are selling rain barrels and we need to sell them. So if you want one, let me know. We would love to get rid of them. And 125, I'll give you my email. And that is it. That's, anybody have any questions?
Give me your email.
Okay,
I'll buy
great.
one.
Great. I will definitely do that. That's it for me.
Anyone have any questions?
Thank you.
Yeah.
Hewitt Waterways does a tremendous amount of things for the town. We really appreciate it.
Well, we appreciate you saying that.
Thank you,
Thank you.
Kenzie. Okay, we're going to slip one in. Do you guys want to take a break a minute before?
No.
Slip one
Push
in?
forward, push forward, just push forward,
Do what?
push forward.
Just
Got
push
one more-
forward.
There's only one more thing.
Push
There's
forward.
one more there's a public hearing.
But I have something there I have to work in for Elizabeth.
Well, there's two more.
So I thought this might be a good time to do that. But you want,
Sure. How do you know we have a member of the public here?
Well, then let's push forward to the public hearing first.
you want to push forward on the public hearing?
Yes.
Yep.
Okay, all right, we'll do that. All right. Hear from over there.
Need a motion.
I'll make a motion to open public hearing.
Second.
Got a second, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Support.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This is a public hearing to consider text amendments related to accessory structures and manufactured housing. Jesse, if you don't mind, tell on this table, which is page 3. Thank you. The proposed text amendments, they promote flexibility in the number and placement of accessory dwelling units on the properties. We had multiple situations where there were families with a family land, quite a bit of acreage, and we could not allow them to put accessory dwelling units to their family members. Because right now, the ordinance limits ADUs, which we refer to dwelling units, only one per lot. It doesn't matter how big your lot is. It's one per lot, and that's it. Manufactured homes are not allowed to be accessory dwelling units, even in a district where a manufactured home can be as a primary dwelling. So in order for us to promote more attainable housing options and to help many requests that we have, we are promoting this text amendment and presenting it to you today. It's important to understand that accessory dwelling units cannot increase the density of the district. They still have to stay within the base density as determined by the district. And they cannot be in violation of any other standards such as design guidelines or setbacks or building height. In fact, all ADUs shall be subordinate to the primary structure. Another proposed change in conjunction is the refined definition of manufactured home park. Currently, our ordinance defines manufactured home park as 2 or more mobile homes on one lot. We did have several situations where there were separate lots for each home, but the whole park was deeded as a park by a deed. So that created confusion and the conflict with our definition and how to apply design guidelines, because manufactured home parks are not subject to manufactured home design guidelines, while the single standing manufactured homes outside of the park, they're subject to more stringent design guidelines. So to avoid this confusion, we cleared the definition of the manufactured home parks, increasing it from 2 homes to 4 per lot, or if the park is deeded as a park by the deed. And again, this is going back to some of the families. We do have a few families I see here who are interested in that. They're not a park. They're just families with the land who would like to give it affordable housing for their relatives. With this, the staff proposes the following changes. Important to know that I would like to show you currently manufactured homes are allowed in the following districts. And just to show you the spread where they're already allowed, the purple, so they're allowed in various districts of the town, and total in 8. So we have 30 residential districts, 30 districts, period.
one of which is commercial industrial doesn't allow any manufacturing homes. So a district will allow manufacturing homes. Only one district will allow manufacturing park with a special use permit, which will be Allen. So they're already allowed in quite a bit of places. And so the following suggestions for the ordinance revisions are as follows. To allow manufactured housing to be used as an accessory dwelling unit in the zoning districts where the manufactured housing on individual lots is already allowed. These districts are Francis Cove, Hilltop Low Density Districts, Chestnut Park, Delwood, and South Waynesville Medium Density Districts, Allen's Creek, Nineveh, and Raccoon Creek Neighborhood Residential District. We also allow manufactured homes in Delwood District west of Pratt Avenue. And we also allow manufactured housing in a newly established railroad overlay district. So we propose to allow manufactured homes as accessory dwelling units there as well. Second change is to amend the definition of manufactured home park from 2 or more homes on a single parcel to 4 or more homes on a single parcel, and to clarify that manufactured home parks that are deeded and subdivided into individual lots still fall within the definition regulations that apply to manufactured home park on a single parcel. This is helpful to a number of property owners who own manufactured housing on pre-existing non-conforming lots in several districts. The third change is to increase the number of accessory dwelling units allowed from 1 per parcel regardless of the lot size to 1 ADU for parcels up to 1 acre, 2 ADUs for lots on greater than 1 acre up to 5 acres, and 3 ADUs for lots over 5 acres for commercial lots. And this is where the table comes in. These are the more substantial changes that we are proposing. This would apply to all 29 districts which allow residential uses in areas within the railroad overlay, and that would have more than 1 ADU on property. And the reason we kept it at 3 for larger lots is because once you hit 3 structures, the fire access road requirements kick in, the driveways, stricter driveway standards kick in, so there will be more regulations that we have to comply with. And at this point, we prefer to look at them as subdivisions or site plans as determined by Chapter 15. We want to clarify that ADUs can only be located on lots with an existing single-family dwelling. That stands. Even right now, there you can't put an ADU if you have a duplex. It's meant to have primary single-family dwelling, and then you can put an ADU. So we're just clarifying that and emphasizing it again. We propose that ADUs are included in the maximum number of accessory structures such as shed carports, allowing on a lot as shown in this table. So we are aligning and cleaning up this table a little bit, because right now this table doesn't even have a name, and it creates some of the confusion how to interpret. Do you count them as together? Do you count accessory structures separately from ADUs or together? So we are aligning them together, and especially for the small lots, you can see recommendation of a planning board, still keeping that number low, but count them towards total number of accessory structures on the lot. We propose a more restrictive square footage and limit ADUs on the smaller lots, especially ones that are less than 1 acre, the first 2 columns of the table, where the footprint for accessory structures, including ADUs, must be less than 10% of the lot size, with the maximum aggregate footprint, whichever is less. Currently, in lots under half an acre, the ordinance allows 1,000 square feet for accessory structures and does not regulate footprint for ADUs. The proposed ordinance would cap all accessory structures on the small lots at 10% of 1,500 square feet, whichever is less. And that came from a strong recommendation from the planning board, because overcrowding on the smaller lots was a concern, especially because we do have several districts that do not have base density. So that was a concern for small lots. For larger lots, there was no concern, barely any, for number of accessory dwelling units, and that's why for lots greater than 1 acre, the size of ADUs can be determined by the site dimensional standards and other applicable requirements. We still would like to keep the number of them at 3 maximum ADUs per larger lot, but the planning board recommends that we do not count the square footage for all the structures on the lot
towards ADUs because the slots are large. And we are still clarifying that all ADUs shall be clearly subordinate in size, footprint, height, and design elements to the main structure. So they shall be smaller, they should be appearing smaller. And the text amendment broadens the definition of prohibited ADUs. In addition to campers and recreational vehicles, it now excludes park models and tiny homes on wheels for building inspector's recommendation unless they are granted under emergency housing. These are the suggested text amendments, and with this staff submits, they're consistent with goals 1 and 2 of the comp plan to continue to promote smart growth principles in land use planning and zoning, to encourage infill, mixed use, and context-sensitive development, and to create a range of housing opportunities and choices that will appeal to a variety of households. And throughout our comp plan, as you can see in the staff report, there are multiple statements showing that we do need workforce housing, manufactured housing, one of preferred living situations for many households and for elderly population as well. With this, I'll be happy to answer any questions. I know it's a one ordinance.
I have one question. Considering tiny homes, if they remove the wheels, would that make them compliant?
So we don't regulate the size of a home per se, but they have to be built to the North Carolina building code standards. That's what we tell people. Yeah.
So a lot of tiny homes do come on wheels.
Mm-hmm.
We would treat those similarly to on-frame modulars.
Mhm.
Okay.
Would be allowed, but they would have to be put on.
Yeah.
Okay.
No.
John?
Sure.
Good. Okay. All right, thank you. I will open it up to public. Anyone want to speak in favor of this text amendment? Or anyone? Okay, ma'am. If you would just give your name to the town clerk there.
Good evening, council members. I have been here. My name is Judy Gentry. I live in the Dillwood area of Waynesville. These ladies take know me well. I think I've attended every single meeting that the planning board has held. So I'm here in support of my son. I have a young son. He works very hard. He has 2 kids. My sister and I own a piece of property at Dillwood. It is 1.5 acres. He is simply trying to live and raise his family. That's all we're asking. We obtained the property in 92, and in support of this text amendment with extra accessory structures and manufactured housing, he would be able to raise his family. And the price of rent is so extremely high right now. He has 2 kids. The last son that was born has some medical issues. Daycare is $1,300 a month. If both kids were to be at Hayward Community College, RCAC district, you're familiar with that. So I'm simply trying to help my son. We realize there's rules to manufactured housing. It was tough sitting through some of the planning board because I know people don't want to see junk. I'm right there with you guys. I get the rules and it needs to be decent and in compliance with the neighborhood, whatever. But I'm simply here in support of this. And thank y'all for listening and considering it because you would be helping my family and many other families. My son works very hard. He's very proud. He wants to raise his family and provide for him himself. So thank you to the planning board and to you ladies that worked so hard by at least considering this. You would be helping my family and I would appreciate it tremendously. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Anyone else like to speak?
I wasn't prepared for the legal. Well, my name is Sean Porter. I live in the Allen's Creek community. And my daughter is planning on getting married next year. And her young fiance, they're working very hard. They're trying to start a new chapter in their life. And earlier this year, I had the opportunity to purchase some property that's adjacent to my property. Thanks to Miss Martha, I was able to close on that very swiftly. Thank you. And then all of this came to light. And so we decided, you know what? A young couple, rent is, I don't have to tell you guys, rent is very high. For a young couple trying to start a new life, didn't want them to go in debt over their head, nor did they. And so we thought we would help them find a mobile unit to put on our property, so they can get their life started, save their money for a few years till they're ready to purchase or to build a home. In doing that, I was told that I need to talk to Olga. I didn't know who Olga was. So, when I talked to her, I had to apologize to her the next day because it took me by surprise when I was told that, there was a lot of restrictions on what I could and couldn't do on my property, as you can understand. And just so you know, the tail end of my property is on the ETJ line. Matter of fact, about 80 feet of the new property is out of the ETJ. So, I mean, I'm right on the tail end of the ETJ. And so I get restrictions, I get ETJ, I understand every bit of that. But I also understand that Waynesville over the last several years has focused on affordable housing. And that's all I want to do for my daughter and her new fiance is just offer them some affordable housing so they can get their feet planted and start moving forward till they can build a permanent home. So thank you for your
I
consideration.
have one question. What's the size of your lot? I want to make sure that you don't inadvertently exclude that.
The size of my current lot where my home is less than an acre. The property that I had the opportunity to purchase this year was a little over 3 acres.
Thank you. Okay. Anyone else? Okay, I have a motion then to close the public hearing.
So moved.
Got a motion with Julia, second with Chuck. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed, show like sign. Okay, guys. We need to, make a move on this.
Mayor, I'd like to make a motion to find that the ordinance is consistent with the 2035 comprehensive plan and that it is in reasonable in the public interest in that it continues to promote smart growth principles in land use, planning and zoning, encourages infill, mixed use and context sensitive development.
Okay, got a motion as a second.
Second.
Second, Julia, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, show like sign.
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to make a motion to adopt the ordinance as presented in that it creates a range of housing opportunities and choices, encourages new housing inside Waynesville's city limits and ETJ, and promotes a diverse housing stock, including market rate, workforce housing, and affordable options that appeal to a variety of households.
Okay, got a motion. Second. Second, Chuck, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, show like sign. Okay, folks, thanks for your input tonight. To me, that was heartbreaking. I just want to thank you all for stepping forward and speaking for your family's behalf. I'm there with you. Thank you all. Okay. All right, we'll move into, that other item there that ET has. It's a request of town council to approve a grant application to the North Carolina Great Trails State Program grant to extend Richland Creek Greenway, Hickory Hollow Apartments to Boyd Avenue.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. In front of the mayor is a form that is required for council action to approve the grant application to the Great Trails State Grant. And it has to be signed by the mayor and sent in with the grant deadline, which happens tonight. We came to talk to you about several Greenway grant opportunities. One was the community change grant that the US EPA was doing. We had some members of our Environmental Sustainability Board working with us and the Southern Appalachian Highlands Conservancy to do a regional grant. And then there was the Great Trails State Grant. This is a one-time grant for the completion of planned greenways, very specific, specifically for communities that have planned greenways and just need some help getting to the finish line. Well, we looked at two different areas of our community. One was the former Schulhofer property towards Asheville Highway. And then the other was this property from behind Hickory Hollow Park along the old Queen property that the town purchased across what's now Care, the easement to Boyd Avenue. And with thanks to Martha and Mr. Queen, we actually secured that property, and the town purchased the Queen portion of that market sale for $20,000 a couple of years ago. So we had that property, but when we looked at some of the environmental factors and what we learned on the cost of building through our Parks and Recreation Trust Fund grant, is we realized that the Great Trail State application was more appropriate for the smaller greenway, and that the larger greenway, where we were looking at the Schulhofer property, Asheville Highway, that was part of the regional EPA grant. The regional EPA grant got submitted weeks ago, and now we're trying to submit a second grant application for this area. The grant application, the minimum grant application for a paved trail is $300,000, and we just make it into that quarter-mile length. So we would like to go ahead and apply for $300,000. We're a Tier 2 community, which means for each dollar we request, for each dollar we put up as match, we get $2 in grant funding back. So for $300,000, we had to raise $150,000. So the Tourism Development Authority, off the bat, pledged $50,000 towards this project. Last fiscal year, we had allocated $34,000 design, which we carried over into this fiscal year. So we have $34,000 right now to start that project to count towards cash match. We also have $20,000 land easement acquisition that has been accomplished. So that also is counting towards our match. What that means is that we would have $46,000 over the next 3 fiscal years for in-kind sorts of activities that would count towards match. And because it's a 3-year grant, a lot of the in-kind that we're looking at are things that have such as a large part of this project is going to require us to remove a almost 7,000 square foot bamboo stick. And the bamboo in there, the bamboo is thick. It goes all the way down. And I was talking with Ricky Foster about it and Jeff Steins, and it's not going to be easy. It's probably going to be about 5 days worth of work. It'll require some heavy equipment, something the town can do in-house, but that's a cost to us to do that. So that can count as our match. We would also like to build a crosswalk right there at Hickory, at the front of Hickory Hollow Apartments over to Old Hickory School, where kids walk to access the middle school, because we very much want this greenway to serve the middle school students and give them a way to come from middle school and be able to get off-road and go 2 directions. They can either go down to Hazelwood Park or they can go to Boyd Avenue and connect over to different neighborhoods from there. So that is the story of the grant application that we're putting together and submitting tonight. And I apologize for coming to you at the last minute with this, but we do need your approval to go ahead and submit it with that guaranteed match.
I move that we approve the grant application.
Second.
I got a motion that's second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, show like sign.
Thank you.
You go, E.T.
Thank you.
I'm sorry. Okay. Move on to communication from staff. Got any energy left?
No, sir.
Okie dokie, town manager. You have anything for us tonight? Okay. Town attorney?
Do not.
Nothing. Communication from staff. My update to you there on November the 8th, Rob and I went down to Morganton to the North Carolina League of Municipalities, had put this on for the Helene recovery special convening. It was for mayors and managers. And so we were the only mayors in Haywood County that actually showed up. I'll have to say that. Other than we had Joy, from, town of Clyde, you know, she represented Clyde, but Rob and I, we were it. And other than, our county commissioner, which he is one of the county commissioners, what is that on that board? Tommy Long.
Tommy was there and so was, Jennifer.
And Jennifer represented, the county. But, it was a good program. I'd say there's probably what, 300 people, at least 300 people. And it was for the western part of North Carolina that got affected by the floods. And, they broke us up into, like we were in the southwestern region 8, you know, which Russ was there. There was the director of the region 8. So they broke us up into groups. There's what, about 5, 6 groups or something like that. And we talked and we gave the league kind of what, you know, the town's facing, which the town is facing, mostly needing funding. You know, we're hoping to get FEMA back funding, you know, for a lot of these projects that we are doing right now, you know, which, you know, I had to figure, what was it, like $2,495,000 plus dollars. And this is just for the town of Waynesville. But we presented that to the group, and then after that, we went back into session, and we had speakers from the governor spoke. We had Tom Tillis, correct? Tom Tillis was there. He spoke, and also we had one representative there, Mike Clampett, which represents Swain Jackson. We actually didn't have anybody. Nobody was from our area, other than, you know, we had, like I say, we had Tom Tillis and the governor speak highly about going back into session and hopefully, you know, get some funding, some more funding there also. Did I leave anything out? Yeah, but it was a very interesting, and I'm glad we were able to attend that down there, and hopefully something will come from that, because they took notes. They took really, really good notes from the breakups we had in our group. And so the league took, like I say, they took notes, and we'll probably get something back from them later from the minutes that were took during that session that we had. There was in our group, there was like the Mayor Murphy, correct? He was there. Anyone else other than the commissioner?
Well, we had representatives from all the towns.
Yeah.
Guard.
Yeah.
And up in Avery County, Watauga.
Yeah. Yeah, it was every county, you know. Buncombe was really, really well represented there. Buncombe was, you know. But again, I've got some stuff here if anybody wants to look at it, you know, that where we met. And Tom Tillis actually has a brochure out that has about, you know, the recovery resources. You need that?
I've got that one.
Yeah, I'll lay that right there. I picked that up just for you. Just for ET. That's Tom Tillis' recovery. He's got a lot of information. I heard you mention him a while ago. The reason I asked you about that. But anyway, that's pretty much all I have, other than I will be on vacation next week. I'll be the 18th through the 25th. So if anyone has anything residing to the mayor, they'll need to see Mayor Pro Tem Chuck Dix.
Oh,
that would be great.
So if there's anything there, you know, that anyone has I know I caught you off on guard on that.
Don't worry, I'll
I'm ready.
be here to hold the line on
Oh,
this.
yes,
Making a
and
coup.
our lovely town manager will keep you straight. Believe me, she keeps me straight. She does a great job, and plus Rob. And, I want to thank Rob for, taking me also to that, meeting down there. It was really, really great, wasn't it? It was really great. But anyway, that's all I have. Chuck, do you have anything tonight? No. Hey,
No, sir, I don't.
Julia,
No, sir.
John?
You know I do.
I know you
To
do.
make mine very brief, though,
Yeah.
I would like to say thank you to Representative Mark Pless. On October the 29th, I met with the General Consulate from Israel, our Israeli consulate from Georgia, and we did a tour of the area. They also delivered much needed heaters and supplies. They had a whole tractor trailer load of heaters that we delivered to the area, and also food, and we toured the area. An update on NCDOT, we had rough estimates of $5 billion worth of damage to our highways and roads. That is just state roads. That doesn't include municipality roads. And as of today, there were a total of 1,426 total incidents of North Carolina roads being closed, resulting in 1,331 closed facilities. And we've reached 1,044 reopened locations that still have 294 currently closed, with 96 with partial access and 37 with truck restrictions. Significant portions of the Blue Ridge Parkway are now reopened to individuals. Interstate 26 is now opened at the Tennessee line with one lane in each direction. We are hoping to have Interstate 40 between North Carolina and Tennessee opened by the New Year's Day, hopefully. That would be one lane in each direction and a speed limit of 45 miles per hour. 5 state parks have reopened in Western North Carolina, including Crowder's Mountain, Gorgeous Grassy Ridge Access, Grandfather Mountain, Lake Norman, Bayous, and Rendezvous Mountain. And the following parks remain closed: Chimney Rock, Elk Knob, Lake James, Mount Mitchell, New River, South Mountains and Stone Mountain State Parks, and Mount Jefferson State Natural Area. Yeah, and that will be good.
The only other thing I didn't mention was the luncheon that we had for the employees. It was really, really great. And we also gave them their Christmas bonuses early, so they can catch Black Friday instead of waiting until no Friday they ain't nothing left, so I wanted to get you guys that didn't able to attend that we did, give out the Christmas bonuses early this year for them so they could, get a little head start.
Like I said, I really wanted to attend, but I know that Julie and I both ran into issues on that day that were beyond our control, but
yeah,
I'm planning on going around to all the departments and thinking that.
Yeah, no, Chuck and John, they were there, so I left you anything else, on anything on that?
It's good.
Okay. Any update on the Frog Level Bridge?
3 to 4 months minimum.
3 or 4 months minimum. So there's somewhere we're gonna be signing a contract to get someone started. Is that?
It's still being designed.
We're
not even close to
not even close
to bidding it out.
Yeah, I just know that's one of the biggest things that I'm asked.
It's gonna take a while.
Hammered, it's killed.
The structure has to be completely redesigned.
Yeah. Speaking of that, I think the General Assembly is going to go back into special session for some more relief. Hopefully, we'll have clearer pictures of what they will be funding.
Okay. All right, then, guys, I need.
Mr. Mayor, I move we adjourn.
Okay, got a motion to adjourn. Second by Julia. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed, show like sign. Okay.
Yeah, I'm starving.
Cool.